So thank you for coming to Overcoming Your Fear of Sales with HubSpot for Startups. I'm really excited. I think that I've seen the presentation. There's going to be lots of great nuggets of information today. So super excited to get going. Could I see the next slide, please? Perfect. So first, just an introduction to StartOut. StartOut is a nonprofit organization that seeks to accelerate the growth of LGBTQ+ community to drive economic empowerment. We want to build a world where every LGBTQ+ entrepreneur has equal access to lead, succeed, and shape the workforce of the future. And just a little bit about the programming that we offer. So StartOut's Growth Lab is the only LGBTQ+ accelerator program. We've graduated 56 companies who have raised over $756 million in funding. We also have a mentorship program with over 120 active mentorship pairs. We have expert office hours with experts in fundraising, PR, company growth, offering one-on-one sessions. We also have over 300 investors who are looking for investment opportunities on our internal portal. So if you sign up for our Access to Capital program, you can be matched with investors and get introductions who might be interested in making investment in your company. We also hold 50+ community events every year, just like this one, and also have in-person events in 8 cities throughout the US that you can check out. And also just have overall a really large national community. So if you are new to StartOut and this is the first you're hearing from us, please, after this, head to our website, sign up for our Founders Program, and we can get you into any of these programs that might be of interest for you. I also just quickly wanted to thank our sponsors that you'll see up on the screen who have sponsored StartOut and made this event possible today. And now I want to introduce Chisholm from HubSpot. She is the Associate Business Development Manager, and she has a really great workshop for you all today, all about overcoming our fear of sales. So without further ado, I will pass it off to you.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Kayla. I'm so glad to be here. As Kayla mentioned, we are going to be talking about how to get over the fear of sales. This is something that a lot of founders struggle with, and this is something I even struggled with as a founder myself. So I'm really excited to share more tactics and strategies on how to overcome the fear of selling so you are able to get your product out there. So a bit about me. I am an Associate Business Development Manager here at HubSpot for Startups, as Kayla mentioned. And my goal is to help startups by providing them with knowledge and sharing resources to help them grow. I have experience in marketing, partnerships, and sales. And I'm also a founder myself, as I mentioned, and I have a business called Overlooked Beauty, which is an Afropolitan skincare collection for those with dry skin conditions. So today's agenda, so we're going to cover a few topics. So first, we're going to talk about the role of sales in today's B2B buying process. We'll talk about your sales process and how to build one. We'll talk about what makes founders afraid to sell. And we'll also go over how to conquer that fear of selling. And then we'll talk about tips to increase your sales conversion. So these are going to be some practical tips I'll be sharing with you. And then lastly, I'll talk about automation and how it can help you sell better. And then with everything that I touched on today, I'll give you guys a little bit of homework at the end that you can use after we are over with the session. And then after that is going to be a Q&A. So I'm really excited to go through this. And also, as a note, this session will be recorded. So let's go ahead and dive into the first topic, which is the role of sales in today's B2B buying process. In today's B2B buying process, buyers are in control. The center of today's sales process is the customer. Buyers have the ability to learn about your product before they even engage with your sales team or salesperson. Buyers have gotten better at blocking out interruptive sales techniques, such as shallow sales calls, which I know we've all gotten before, outbound sales, such as cold emailing, cold calling. These are calls and emails are not really personalized or warm, and also pushy sales techniques, and we all have experienced that. Now more than ever, buyers have a high expectations when it comes to their buying experience. They are looking for a personalized experience. So the buyer's journey describes a buyer's path to purchase. Typically, buyers don't purchase on a whim. They do a lot of research beforehand. They go through a process to become more aware, consider, and evaluate before deciding to make a purchase with your business. By understanding the pains and problems of your prospect buyer, you are able to craft a buying process that is focused on helping your customer instead of selling to them. And that is key. As you can see on the screen, there are 3 stages that the B2B buying process entails. So that is the awareness stage, the consideration stage, and also the decision stage. And this also applies to the B2C model as well. At each stage, your customer will learn more about your product. So it's also important to note that each stage will look different for each of your customers because all your customers are different people. And typically, as a buyer, the path is not linear. So this image you see above with the linear buyer journey is typically not what your customers will go through. They'll go through something similar to this journey, where they'll have to go through several touch points before they actually give into your product. And this is a more realistic view because it is more customer centric and personalized. As you can see on the screen, the customer goes through several touch points at each stage before making a buying decision. At the awareness stage, the buyer is experiencing some pain points and maybe looking for information and resources to relieve their pain and also give a name to the problem that they are suffering or going through in their business or as a person. At the consideration stage, the buyer will have clearly defined and given a name to their problem, and they're committed to researching and understanding all the available approaches and or methods to solving the defined problem or opportunity. And at the decision stage, the buyer has decided on their solution, strategy, method, or approach. And the goal is to compile a list of available businesses and options that will support their needs before they make a final purchase decision. And in the chat below, I'm going to go ahead and drop a link to a HubSpot blog that goes further in depth of the buyer journey. So definitely tap into this when you have the time. So in today's day and age, it's not about what you sell, but about how you market. Investing in your customer's journey and understanding who they are will help you optimize your sales process. In today's B2B and B2C selling process, you are the customer's guide. So you're going to be focused more on helping them opposed to selling to them. And pretty much as a guide, it is pretty much to make sure that you are leading them to the best solution to their problems. And with this, making sure that you know your customer is key. And a great way to do this is by creating a customer persona. So what is a buyer persona? Simply put, it is a detailed description of someone who represents your ideal customer. It typically outlines your customer's challenges, their goals, their demographic trait, their age, their occupation, so on and so forth. Knowing your buyer provides structure and insight for your company on how to best attract the most valuable visitors, leads, and customers to your business. You can find your ideal customer through market research, doing a competitive analysis, and by studying the profile of your current customers. HubSpot has a free tool called Make My Persona. I'm going to go ahead and drop that in the chat as well so you guys can reference this. And this is a great tool that you can use to build out your persona if you have not done so yet. Let me know in the chat if you have created a buyer persona. And if you have not, let me know if you're going to be using the buyer persona tool to create your persona. Oh, thank you so much, Ben, for making a note of that. I realized I was sending it to myself, my mistake. Okay, so I've dropped the chats for everyone to, I dropped the links for everyone to see. Okay, so I'm gonna go ahead and move on to the next topic, which is your sales process. Um, when it comes to the sales process, you can think of it as a map that guides your team on a journey to turn potential leads into customers. With a proper sales process, you are able to make more money because there's structure for your sales team or your salesperson to follow. So here at HubSpot, we have a 7-step sales process, and that includes a stage of prospecting, lead qualification, company research, pitch, objection handling, close, and nurturing. So for the first stage, which is prospecting, prospecting is the process of sourcing new early stage leads to begin working through the sales process. The second stage, which is lead qualification, is when the sales process involves your sales team or person reaching out to that prospect. And typically during this stage, that may be through an email, that may be through a discovery call in which you make that connection with your qualified leads. The next step, which is company research, is doing research on the company or the person that is seeking to purchase. So having information about your prospect is key because you're able to create a tailored experience for them. The next stage, which is pitch, is where you will give a demonstration of your service or product to your prospects. The next stage is objective handling, where your prospects will have room to ask questions about your product. And this is also an area where you will relieve any hesitations that your prospect is dealing with. Because we know that when it comes to selling a new product to a new customer, they will have those pushbacks or hesitations about your product before purchasing. So it's good, especially during the discovery calls, that you relieve these hesitations by giving them question or giving them answers about your product that will help them in the long run. The next stage is close, and this is where you will likely close a deal. So closing a sale is where every salesperson wants, or what every salesperson wants to achieve. It should result in a mutually beneficial agreement between the prospect and the seller. And then the last stage, which is nurturing, happens after the close. And this is where you continue to communicate and reinforce the value of your product to your customers. And in the chat, I'm going to go ahead and drop the sales process blog by HubSpot. This is a great blog to look into as you're building out your sales process. Okay, so before we move on, I would love to know, what part of your sales process do you think you need to work on? You can go ahead and drop your answers in the chat. Steph says converting. I have leads, but need to get them to pay. I am with you on that. I am with you on that. Bettina, I hope I said your name correctly. Sorry if I did not. Prospecting, yes, prospecting is key. And then Ben says lead qualification. Yes, these are all vital steps in getting your buy-in from prospects. Thank you guys so much for those answers. So going on to our next topic of the agenda, which is what are you afraid of? What makes you afraid of selling? To start this topic off, I would love to know what makes you afraid of selling. Go ahead and drop it in the chat. What makes you afraid to sell your product or put it out there? Kakai says, placing accurate value on what I'm selling. Yes. Ben says, pick up the phone. Yes, I'm with you on that one as well. I know for me, when I started selling my product, I was so afraid that people wouldn't like it, which made me so afraid. Steph says, I personally hate being sold, so it's hard to do that for others. Also agree with Kakai. Yes, I'm with you on that. Rejection, yes. Rejection is big. Thanks, Mario, for sharing that. Awesome. Okay, so thank you guys so much for sharing your answers. All of those are valid reasons. So typically, as you guys even mentioned in the chat, people are afraid of selling because they're afraid of not being liked. They're afraid that their product may not do what it says it's going to do. They're afraid of rejection, as Mario mentioned. They're afraid that people won't buy into their product. So there's many reasons that people are afraid or founders are afraid to sell. And at the core of these fears is really inadequacy, not feeling that your business or you as a founder is capable of selling or being a problem solver for your customers. And that can be further from the truth. I believe when it comes to fears and inadequacies, it really impacts the way you show up for yourself and also your business. So how do we conquer these fears and inadequacies? I'm going to give you guys a couple of practical tips that I have even used myself. So one of the first ways you can do this is writing a list of all your fears. I think it's so important that as you are stepping out of your comfort zone, that you acknowledge those fears. The best way to get over a fear or the best way to get over a fear is to attack it and go after it. So it's so important that you list those fears out and make sure that you're aware of why you're feeling the way that you do. The next practical tip is to accept that no is normal. In the beginning stages of my business, I had to remember that not everyone is going to be the right fit for your business, and that is okay. But just remember that every no you get is closer to that one yes. The second tip is to set small and achievable goals. Every achievement is worth celebrating. So whether you make one sale in 6 months or 100 sales in 1 month, it is worth celebrating. So always celebrate yourself in this journey because being a founder is not easy, and you are worth celebrating. And your goals are worth celebrating too. The next tip, and this is something I'm going to continue to really reiterate because it's so important, is understanding your persona. Know who your customers are, understand their pain points. This will make it so much easier for you to, one, tackle those fears so that when you're talking to your prospects and you're on calls with them, you have a good understanding of who they are, and you're able to ask questions and also give solutions to their problems. The next thing is going off the point I just mentioned is asking questions focused on your prospect and their goals. So as you are building out your product, as you are looking to see if it's a market fit, go out and ask your prospect questions about your product. This is something I did in the early stages of my business too, reaching out to my prospects, seeing what their needs were, what their challenges were, getting a good understanding of who they were. And lastly, is practicing your pitch. So practice, practice, practice. Practice makes perfect. Practice makes perfect. And I see some comments in the chat, and Kakai says, fear. If I ask for what I'm worth, the sale will not happen. Oh, that's a good point. I'm glad you noted that. That's a good point. I think that the right customers, the customers who know your worth will definitely buy into it. That's something that I dealt with in the beginning as well. But just know that you know your worth, and the right customers will also know your worth, and they will not be afraid to buy into that at all. The Steven said, no is okay, but how do you prevent? I'll call you if we need you. Oh, that is a good question. I think when it comes to that is making sure that you still follow up with those customers. So I think when it comes to the sales process, a lot of times when we have that initial outreach and we talk to those prospects and they say they'll get back to us, sometimes they don't get back to us because they forget. And so I think it's so important that you continue to reach out to them and remind them who you are and what you have to offer. Okay, so going into the next topic, which is tips to increase your conversion. So there's a couple ways that there's a couple of tactics that you can use to increase your conversions. So one of these ways is through the F pattern. And this is a technique you can use when you are doing email outreach. So this technique will help you reach out to prospects in a more personable way. The F format is a way our eyes move when we read content online. And it's also a great way to get your point across in a short and simple way to increase engagement and interaction. The best way to optimize this format is by putting the most enticing content at the top of the first horizontal line, which you can see here, which is the first arrow. And then in the second horizontal line, put the remaining content. I think this is such a good approach because typically our prospects, customers only spend so much time looking at our email. So it's so important that you put the most valuable things at the top. And this is something that I do with our clients as well here at HubSpot. It's a great technique because it's straight to the point, it is simple, and it gives the customers what they need, the value that they're looking for. So the next tactic is understanding timing. So this is a great tactic that you can use for email outreach and also for posting on your social medias. So when it comes to this, it is so important that the best way to say this is important. The time you post is just as important as the content you put in your emails or in your social posts. When it comes to this content, I'm getting tongue twisted, my mistake. When it comes to this, platforms such as HubSpot, MailChimp are great resources that you can use to track the analytics of your customers. So the time they best engage with your content, the times that they open your emails. Sending an email and posting at the right time, along with using a efficient format like the F format, will help increase engagement and interaction of your emails and help yield open rates for your emails as well, which will lead to higher conversions down the line. And this is something that I use as well. I have noticed when I send out emails to my customers during times that they're most engaged, I find that my return on investment when it comes to our products is a lot higher. So definitely pay attention to the time. Another way to increase conversions is to stand out. I think when it comes to so many emails, a lot of emails look the same, a lot of social posts look the same. So it's so important that you add a personal touch to your emails. You can do this by adding an incentive. You can do this by including a video into your emails, which is what we do here at HubSpot. You can add exciting graphics. You can add a unique signature. Find a way to personalize your emails and social content that will create a memorable impression. Another great way to increase conversions is to do discovery calls. And so discovery calls are great because they increase the chances of deals later down the line. The sales discovery call is the first step in the connect phase, where you're able to connect with your customers at a personal level. In the sales discovery process, you'll research your prospect, connect by phone, ask them key qualifying questions, answer any questions they have, solve their challenges, and hopefully move them along the sales process. And in the chat, I'm going to go ahead and drop some questions you can ask prospects as you're on calls with them, or as you're emailing them. These are some questions that you can ask them to get a better understanding of who they are. This will help you build repertoire. This will also help you develop trust with them as well. And Stefan, I see that you dropped a question in the chat, and I'll go ahead and make sure to answer that at the end. Sorry, Steph, my mistake. So going on to our next subject, which is how to automate, and how automation will help you sell smarter. So sales automation benefits your business, sales team, and bottom line in multiple ways. Sales automation increases the productivity and performance of your sales team. It turbocharges your efficiency, improves the accuracy of your sales process, and ensures that your leads don't fall through the cracks, and it helps streamline the quality of your sales task and more. So there are several ways that you can automate your sales process to make it so much more easier. So one of those ways is through having a CRM system. So HubSpot is a great place where you can set up the different functions of your sales process. Through automation, you can automate your prospecting funnel. You can automate your email templates by creating follow-up sequences. You can automate your meeting schedules. You can automate your content and deal creation. You can automate your deal management automations, and you can automate your sales calls. And if you don't know already, HubSpot has a free I'm getting HubSpot tongue twisted, going back a bit. So if you don't know already, HubSpot has a free CRM for those who are at the beginning stages. So if you are looking to begin building out your sales process, or if you're looking to automate your sales tools, HubSpot, you're able to do that on HubSpot. And you're able to do that if you sign up for the HubSpot for Startups program, in which I'll go ahead and drop in the chat. So this is a resource you can tap into if you are looking to build that out. So before we move on to the next subject, I would love to know, how do you plan to automate your sales process? You can go ahead and drop your answers in the chat. Steph says, email campaigns is my next. Yes. Yes, that's a great thing to automate for sure. That's something I've done before. It's been so helpful and saved me so much time. Kakai says, what are some of your favorite resources to become a better salesperson? I've studied Success Through a Positive Mental Attitude by Napoleon Hill, Og Mandino's The Greatest Salesman in the World, and Brian Tracy. Any resources by women you recommend? Oh, that's a good question. I will definitely send a list of different resources you can tap in by women. I can't remember off the top of my head if I've read any sales books by women, if I can be honest. But I'll do some research and I'll get back to you on that via email. Erica says prospecting with informational videos. Yes, that was a great way to do that. David says, what do you mean by automating sales calls? Are you speaking about creating a trigger to remind you to make and log a call? Yes, that's exactly what I'm talking about. Thank you so much. I should have clarified that. Thank you so much for pointing that out. Okay, thank you guys so much for those answers and questions. We're going to go ahead and begin to close out. As I mentioned in the beginning, I do have some homework for you guys. So this is something that you can do with your team. And so if you have not already, after this session or whenever you have free time, be sure to create that buyer persona because that is needed for this homework. So what I'm going to have you do is I'm going to have you split your team into twos. And for each pair, you're going to have someone be a sales rep, play as a sales rep, and you're going to have someone play as your buyer persona. The next step for you to do is have your sales rep set one goal. So this could be for the one goal could be for your customers to understand your product. That could be the one goal is to understand how to pitch to your customers. Definitely build a goal that aligns with your business, of course. And then the next step is for the sales rep to achieve that goal during the discussion. So the person who's playing the buyer persona and the person who is playing the sales rep will have a conversation. And so the sales rep will be asking the buyer persona about their needs, their challenges, their goals, and so on and so forth. And a great way to build out your questions for the sales call is to use a guide. So in the chat, I have dropped a guide that includes questions that you can ask your sales rep. Sorry, questions you can ask your buyer persona. Erica says, I'm a solopreneur. And that is okay. One thing I always recommend is that if you don't have a team, practice with your friends, practice with your family. Also, if you're still working a full-time job, maybe practice with your colleagues will also be a great way to perform this exercise. Yeah, any questions about this homework? I'm going to go ahead and drop the instructions in the chat so you guys have them. Or you can screenshot this page if that is easier. Awesome. So we've discussed all the topics for today. Thank you guys so much for listening. And thank you so much for your questions and your comments. Questions I will definitely touch on at the end. And if you have not already, I encourage you to apply to HubSpot for Startups because you will get access to a free CRM or you will get a exclusive pricing to our enterprise and professional products. So yeah, those are some great resources to tap into. I'll go ahead and drop the link to our website below. And that is it from me. Any questions? If you have any questions, go ahead and drop them in the chat or in the Q&A feature. Okay, Steph said, circling back to mine. Oh, I got you. I remember that. Okay. So Steph says, how much time do you spend creating emails for your campaigns? So this is a good question. It's really going to depend. Is it really going to look different for each company? I know for me, what I often do is I set like a 2-hour block on the weekend to write out emails. So typically I might spend 2 hours and in those emails, I will give company updates. I'll give incentives. I'll also tell them about the updates within my personal life. So I'll just give some um, personal experience. I'll also put personal experiences in my email as well. So typically it can take me 2 hours, but within those 2 hours, I try to create 2 to 3 campaigns. Ben says, what is the most common challenge startups have to establish an efficient sales process? So it is definitely making sure that you have, oh, that's a good question. So making sure that your sales process is organized and is all in one place. So something that we found that founders do is that they silo their different sales processes. So that could be that they have their email campaigns on a different platform, that they're prospecting with a different platform. Not everything is centralized, which is what makes HubSpot so great, because you are able to centralize your sales process all in one place. Your whole team is also able to get on board with that as well. So everything's not siloed. That is a great question. Steph says, my concern is that I won't be able to keep up with everything else I have to do. Also a solopreneur. Thank you. Helpful to know. Yes. Yes, time blocking is key as a founder. I know what it feels like to be a solopreneur, because I am as well, but time blocking is key and it helps you be productive and get work done. Any other questions? Okay. Well, if there's no other questions, that we'll go ahead and close out. Thank you guys so much for joining. This was amazing. It was good getting to know you guys a bit, and I'm really excited to continue this relationship with you guys. So yeah, if you have any other questions, feel free to email me. I'll go ahead and put my email in the chat. And I'll see you guys soon. No problem at all. Kakai said, what was your biggest challenge when you started selling and how did you overcome it? Oh, that's a great question. I have so many things to say about that. But I think for me, the biggest challenge I had with selling was, the biggest challenge I had was finding customers. In the beginning of my business, one thing I failed to do was creating that customer persona. And that's why I emphasized it so much, because knowing your customer will help you build out the right communication and sales funnels for your business. So in the beginning, I was just attacking different channels. I was trying to sell online. I was trying to sell on third-party sites. I was trying to do trade shows. I was trying to sell on social media. There's just so many different avenues I was trying to sell on. I didn't really find success in any of them. But when I sat down and actually built out that buyer persona, I was able to identify where my customers were, and create selling tactics, marketing tactics, to capture them in those areas there were. So for example, for my business, I found that a lot of my customers were were at trade shows. So that's something I went to a lot. I also found that they were also on third-party sites. So Etsy was also a great place for me to sell, because it introed me to a lot of the customers that I have now. And also with Etsy, it had its own marketing like automation tool. So well, the only thing I pretty much had to do on that site was to create keywords that my customers would look up, and that helped people find my product. That was like the biggest challenge, not knowing my customer and finding the channels that they were in. Okay, I hope that answered your question. Any other questions before we jump off? Okay, perfect. I'm glad.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much, Chisholm, for all of the great insights that you shared today. And thank you all for coming. We hope to see you at another Start Out event soon. Have a great rest of your day.
Awesome. Yeah, it was great seeing you guys, meeting you guys. Bye.